In the final part of this lecture, part 5, we're going to learn more about 360-degree feedback, including the pros and cons of different rating sources, as well as some of the challenges of this type of feedback. In your college courses, you usually receive feedback from your professors in the form of grades or points, quantitative data, and comments, qualitative data. This information helps you learn what you did well, what needs improvement, and how to improve it. 360-degree feedback refers to the feedback that was collected from multiple sources, giving us a more complete 360-degree view of performance. The data and feedback can be gathered from supervisors, peers, direct reports, customers, suppliers, vendors, distributors, and other stakeholders. Because some sources have limited knowledge of what performance is expected, 360-degree feedback is used for developmental purposes, not to make administrative decisions about things like promotions or terminations. There are advantages and disadvantages of including each group. Let's explore these next. Supervisor ratings are the most common source of feedback, as supervisors are usually responsible for the overall performance appraisal process. The advantages of using supervisor ratings include that they have the greatest awareness of organizational goals. They are best equipped to tie performance behaviors to rewards, and they're usually better evaluators of results, of outcomes, not so much of effort. The major disadvantage of using supervisor ratings is that they can't observe all types of performance all the time. Some managers don't get very many opportunities to observe their direct reports actually doing their job. In these situations, we might want to rely on other sources of ratings, like peer ratings. Colleagues tend to be better evaluators of typical performance and of effort. That's because they spend the greatest amount of time with their colleagues, more so than their managers. They are able to see day in and day out how their colleagues perform, as opposed to managers who only get tiny snippets of performance. The disadvantages are that peers tend to be more influenced by things like social desirability responding, giving us the answers that they think we want. They may be influenced by friendship bias, rating their friends higher than their nemesis, and by competition for resources, things like promotions, rewards, the best parking spot. There's also a tendency for the highest performers to be extremely strict when it comes to rating their peers. We might also collect ratings from direct reports, from subordinates. This is especially useful when the manager that we're evaluating is responsible for a large number of employees. These ratings help top leaders hold lower-level managers accountable for their behavior. Just as managers rate their employees, now employees can rate their managers. One of the major disadvantages of subordinate ratings is that some of them is that they may fear retaliation and therefore not tell us the truth, not give us accurate ratings of their managers. For this reason, the process should be anonymous, especially when there's a small number of employees participating in the feedback process. We wouldn't want managers to be able to identify which of their 3 direct reports said what about their performance. Furthermore, when we include subordinate ratings, we have to build an enormous amount of trust with managers and with the direct reports. If they don't trust the system, they may not provide relevant data, they may not participate in the process at all. Self-ratings can also play an important role in the feedback system. One of the advantages is that when we ask for self-ratings, we signal to the employees that we care about their opinion, that we care about what they have to say about their own performance. The result is that more employees trust the system. More of them perceive the process as being fair. Self-ratings can also increase motivation and minimize defensiveness. When people feel like they were able to voice their opinion, they're less likely to get defensive. Of course, we can't use self-ratings to make administrative decisions. Most people would probably choose to promote themselves, right? We use self-ratings for developmental purposes and to increase participation and engagement in the performance measurement process. Plus, we tend to be more lenient when we're rating our own performance than when rating other people's performance. There's usually less variability, more bias. Overall, the ratings are less accurate, but still useful from a psychological standpoint. We could collect ratings from other stakeholders, like customers, clients, suppliers, vendors. The fresh, new perspective from external stakeholders can help the organization plan its future, plan its business strategy. These ratings are useful for jobs that require a great deal of interaction with the public. If we're measuring customer service representatives' performance, we probably need to take a look at their customer service scores. These other ratings can also be useful for developmental, administrative, or even research purposes. The major disadvantage, of course, is that these external stakeholders don't know as much about the organization, its specific goals, and how it defines performance. Without this context, the ratings have limited applicability. Number 1, rater fatigue. This happens when we continuously ask people for feedback, or when we design poor measurement systems. It's important to customize all rating forms for the situation so that we're not wasting anyone's time. Number 2, fear of retaliation. Some employees are afraid that their manager will retaliate against them if they find out what the employees said about their performance. For this reason, some companies use external vendors to administer the entire performance measurement system. That way, managers can never find out who said what. Number 3, lack of follow-through. Performance measurement is a continuous process. It shouldn't happen just 1 or 2 times a year. Managers should be following up with their employees, discussing their development plans, and providing support and resources. Unfortunately, not all managers have the time or the energy to do so. Without follow-through, though, the whole process is less effective than it would be with ongoing conversations about performance. And finally, number 4, some employees don't like feedback, don't like sharing it, don't like receiving it, don't like participating in the system, especially when 360-degree feedback is used for administrative purposes. Now, for some jobs, like customer service reps, it makes sense to use customer service data to decide who gets promoted, who gets terminated. But for other jobs, like my job, it doesn't make sense. Student evaluations are used for developmental purposes to help us as professors improve, but rarely are student evaluations used to fire a professor. Like many things in organizational behavior, It's important that top leaders support the 360-degree feedback system. Even better if they actually participate in the process.